Supreme Magus, Chapter 41, Screams of Terror. Later that day, when Solus returned with the identity of the culprit, a sample of the poison, and the hilarious new gossip as prizes, she had expectedly to be excited or at least relieved. Instead, he was brooding, with the same annoyed face he had when he was forced to spend quality time with Ryan. "Why so gloomy? We did it. We can take her out any time we want. Smile a little." "I would indeed smile if we managed to find her at the first or maybe fifth attempt. Unless Matt has become an opinion, the last time I slept, searching 30 rooms out of 18 means you have searched 39 persons, more than 2/3 of the staff members. At this point, we can as well sweep the remaining 5 to verify if she has accomplices, not to mention that this maid wasn't even on my list. The psycho wife would have bested me if not for your new ability." Lead started pacing, his mind analyzing the choices at his hand. "You are a real party pooper, you know." Solus pouted. "Sorry, you did a great job, but put yourself in my shoes. First, it took us so long to find her that I'm pretty sure the Countess has already noticed that something is wrong. The Count and his heirs have been poisoned daily, yet they are perfectly fine. It's safe to assume that soon she will resort to a more direct approach. We need to move fast before her pawn flees from the scene. Second, and most important, this new piece of gossip you brought me is a nightmare. Sure, it's all fun and laugh until you realize that if the rumor reaches the Countess's ears, she may even believe it. And while I don't care being a target, the same can be said about my mother. We must wrap this up quickly and try to get as much evidence as we can so whoever is handling the annulment process will be forced to spread and speed his bureaucracy. Then I can ask the Count to bring my family here as soon as possible. When those blabbering fools see that I'm spitting image of my father, that stupid rumor will die out. Only then I will be able to focus on protecting the Count again." "Well, yeah," Solus shrugged, "but you are forgetting about the bright side. If the Countess falls for this rumor, she will get really angry. And when she is angry, she makes really stupid mistakes. Always such a pessimist. And you even dare to question why you look like crap in a mirror." Ever since Solus had started following the suspects, Lid hadn't been sitting idly either. To make up for whatever she would find, he needed a plausible excuse. At random times during the day, he would pretend to go investigating on his own, leaving the 3 nobles with the guards, while he would actually always remain in the vicinity, ready to intervene if necessity arose. Also, he had asked the Count to give him a tour of his magical library, getting the opportunity to borrow some Tier 4 books and store them inside Soluspedia. Even when they were apart, Lead could still access both the dimensional storage, and it would just take some effort to operate them. That allowed him to further expand his knowledge about the possibilities of magic and gave him several new ideas. The next day, after Solus identified at least one of the Countess's agents, Lee started to prepare the final step for his new plan, while Solus searched the remaining 7 rooms. It turned out they miscalculated, since both the butler and the head of the kitchen had their private rooms. Because of their status and seniority, her task was made faster and easier by the fact that she had not to tail a target for a whole day anymore. Solus could just get inside and search for evidence as soon as the coast was clear. On Lee's side of things were a bit trickier. First, he had to identify the poison from the sample Solus brought back. It was colorless and odorless liquid. He spread a small drop on its finger and another on its tongue without swallowing it. It tasted sweet and acidic at the same time. What's this? A pineapple pizza flavored poison? This is disgusting. And here I hope to have left this taste on earth. While his stomach was turning at those horrible memories, the area where he had spread the poison became numb. After a while, they became red and swollen. Since breathing was getting harder, Lid immediately neutralized the poison before looking for it in Count's books he had stored in Soluspedia. Thankfully, in this world they shouldn't have synthetic poisons outside the magical varieties. It shouldn't be hard to find the right one. It turned out to be an extract from a rare type of blackberries like fruit that usually grew in the marshlands. The white berries, more commonly known as doomberries, in their natural state simply had a sweet smell and disgusting taste, but their juice, if properly distilled and condensed, was highly toxic. Its low dosage symptoms matched the Count's story, like the effects Lid had experienced fitted the description of its concentrated form. At that point, the final issue lied in finding a way to get a full confection without destroying the good image Count Lark had of him. Lid didn't miss how disgusted the Count had reacted at the mention of tortures. Lid had no interest in arts, but from the way the Count had painted him, it was clear that in his mind the young magico was valiant and righteous, rather than a cold-blooded schemer with a penchant for inflicting pain. This is so stupid. Not only I have to save him, but I also have to do it in a way of his liking. Having a good man as a backer is both a blessing and a curse. I need to get creative. Having almost run out of options, Lid needed to check out the books he had never thought could have any use to him, before going to the Count and explain to him the only man crazy enough to have a ghost of a chance. A few days later, Lena Creswick was at her rope's end. The Countess was sick and tired of her failures, and had clearly told her to either get the job done or start running for her life. That ungrateful countesses, after so many years of loyal service, always covering her, even volunteering to get rid of her deadbeat husbands, that's how she repays me? Now I get why the sod wants to get rid of her. I'll make a last attempt before getting out of here. I'm sick of being caught between a rock and a hard place, always watching my back. If even this fails, I'll escape to the Gorgon's empire. I should be safe there. She had no idea what could have possibly go wrong. Before getting fired, Jenon had told her that the Doomberry's kiss was a powerful poison that even he would have a hard time to detoxify. Could the Count have an inhuman constitution despite being so thin? During her first shift in the kitchen, she waited for the place to be left unattended before adding 2 spoonsfuls of poison into the Count's plate. It was impossible to miss, since even the napkins had the initial embroidered. That dose would be enough to kill 12 men. But she was tired of slowly rising the amount, day after day, waiting for something to happen. Some hours later, she finally succeeded. After eating the soup, the Count had started to have difficulty breathing his tongue swelling like a sponge. Both the so-called magician Brat and Pontus, which back in the military had been a field medic, couldn't help him. Finally dead. Lena, just like her coworkers, started sobbing uncontrollably. But while they were grieving, she was weeping with joy. Now she was safe, and with the sum she had agreed with the Countess, she could finally turn her lifelong dream into reality. She didn't need any more to work her ass for someone else. It was her turn to live in a beautiful house surrounded by servants. Of course, first she had to wait for the investigation to be concluded. Jadon, the new count, imposed a martial law prohibiting anyone to go out of the house without his permission. Lena had nothing to fear though. As soon as she spiced the late count's plate, she had thrown away the remaining poison and carefully washed the flask before putting it back in the kitchen pantry. During the rest of the day, every room was combed and every member of the staff had to undergo a long interrogation. When they finally let her walk, she was exhausted. All the stress and emotions had taken a big toll on her. Also, she was starting to realize that she had actually killed a man, and a good one too. She tried to ease her guilty conscience by thinking of her future wealth and happiness, but instead she ended up second thinking everything she did so far. What if the Countess breaks her word? It's not like I can expose her crime, after all. Even worse, what if my reward turns to be a knife in the back or a poisoned drink? She doesn't need me anymore. I'm just a loose end. Good gods, what have I done? Have I really killed a harmless buffoon just for a pile of gold? The words pile and gold still had a soothing effect on her, so she decided to go to bed and put all that story behind her. What's done is done. All the remorse in the world can bring the Count back. May the gods rest his soul. The problem was that her roommates wouldn't stop talking about what happened. It was the first time in years that a murder occurred within those walls. After some yelling and bickering, she managed to get them to close the curtains and turn off the oil lamp. Lena had just closed her eyes when the doorknob started turning and rattling. Someone was trying to get in. As soon as the light was lit again, the rattling stopped. What was that? It must be another of Sika's stupid pranks. She's such an idiot. And how could she do it all? Our rooms are closed from the outside. Martial law, remember? Lena pointed out. When they were still trying to find an explanation, suddenly the room became so cold that they could see their breaths condensing. The room's window got all fogged up. One of her roommates became really scared, banging on the door and calling for help. But no one answered. All they could do was to wear their heaviest clothes and cover themselves with the blankets. Then the oil lamp went out. No matter how hard they tried, it was impossible to lit it again. Panic started to ensue when the knob rattled again, even stronger than before, while their beds shook like during a quake. It's like in the old stories my grandmother used to tell me when I was little, screamed one of the maids. A vengeful spirit is trying to get in. Grow up, Seria. There are no such thing as ghosts. Lena was a woman of action. She never believed in folk tales. She raised her nightstand to use it to smash the window that refused to open when she saw him. The lame Count Reculark was in front of her. Despite her room being on the first floor, his whole figure was pale white, glowing in a dim light like a firefly. His eyes were all white with no pupils, shedding tears of blood. Small blue flames were erupting from his snow-white hair, dancing around while emitting screams of pain. Their eyes were locked. Lena couldn't look away, her whole body frozen stiff, the nightstand still raised. "How could you do this to me?" The Count's voice sounded distorted and distant, barely a whisper, but they could hear it clearly as a shout. Screaming in terror, the three women ran to the door, trying to open it and calling for help. When they looked back, the Count was already floating inside, despite the window being still locked. When he extended his hand, they felt a jolt running through their spines, falling into a cold oblivion.